Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a seriously fascinating sociological phenomenon, something called the calcification of the crystal. Think of it almost like an active heist of social mobility. We're going to look at how fluid, mobile social classes actually harden over time into rigid, impenetrable caste structures. It's an incredible journey, from open opportunity to locked-in privilege, and we'll be drawing on some deep sociological research into how elites systematically secure their dominance across generations.
Okay, here's our roadmap for unpacking all of this. We'll start with class versus caste, look at the mechanisms of calcification, explore how elites are encashing caste capital, unpack the casteless merit myth, and finally wrap up with asymmetric stratification.
Let's dive right into Section 1. Class versus caste. To really grasp this calcification idea, we have to establish the foundational difference between these two systems.
So we're all pretty familiar with the class system. It's a social hierarchy primarily driven by economic factors: your wealth, your income, your education level. A class system fundamentally promises fluidity, right? You can move up or you can fall down based on your individual achievements, failures, and just general market dynamics. The whole thing hinges on what we call achieved status.
But in stark contrast to that, you have the caste system. This is a rigid, completely closed social hierarchy that is determined strictly by birth. In a pure caste system, moving up or down the ladder is structurally impossible. You just remain in the tier you were born into for life. Status here is ascribed. It's assigned to you from day one, and it's usually justified by deep historical, religious, or customary narratives.
And this comparison brilliantly illustrates the divide. On one hand, you have the theoretical openness and fluidity of a river, with achieved status. On the other, the impenetrable brick wall of inherited ascription. Our central question today is how that fluid water slowly freezes and hardens into that wall. How exactly does a fluid class turn into a closed caste?
That brings us perfectly to Section 2, Mechanisms of Calcification. Let's see how this freezing process actually happens. Here is a pretty wild paradox for you. Calcification happens when an elite upper class engineers a closed, hereditary dynasty using modern institutions. We normally think of modern institutions, like universities, the tech industry, corporate law, as engines of social mobility. But as it turns out, elites can actually use these exact same modern democratic systems to build an ancient wall around their privilege.
Sociologist David Moss breaks down this elite closure into 3 very specific steps. Step 1. Hoard traditional advantage. This could be historical land control or specialized social networks. Step 2. Convert those traditional advantages into modern capital, like prestigious professional degrees. And Step 3. Lock it all in via strict endogamy. That means restricting marriage and family formation exclusively to people within the exact same socioeconomic tier. It's literally like an exclusive VIP club where the bouncers only let in people whose great-grandparents were also members, ensuring the wealth pool stays entirely closed off across generations.
To see what this looks like in the real world, let's look at sociologist Dana Kornberg's research on Delhi's waste economy. She identifies what she calls transactional pathways. On one side, you have informal recycling. This is performed primarily by oppressed castes doing grueling, door-to-door manual labor, completely excluded from any real wealth accumulation. On the other side, formal recycling is managed by dominant castes using heavy machinery and highly lucrative government contracts. Now, you might have mobility within your specific pathway. Say, a waste picker saves enough to build a concrete home in their village, but the broader institutional boundaries between the two, those remain completely locked. It perfectly highlights the profound unfairness of 2 people working equally hard but navigating entirely different caste-coded economic universes.
Moving on to Section 3. Encashing caste capital. This details the exact currency exchange that makes elite closure possible. How does old historical privilege become shiny new modern wealth?
Research from David Moss and Haripriya Narasimhan on Tamil Brahmins gives us a fantastic window into this. They argue that Tamil Brahmanhood and middle-classness had become mutually constitutive. Basically, being middle class and having historical caste privilege had become the exact same thing. Their analysis shows that historical privilege doesn't just evaporate when a society modernizes, it simply changes its form and updates its vocabulary. So elites essentially encash their historical chips using a sort of magical exchange rate. Look at this conversion. Traditional land control and rural resources transform seamlessly into metropolitan housing and prime urban property.
A historical monopoly on literacy translates directly into prestigious IT and professional degrees, which explains the dominance of certain groups in elite engineering institutes. And those old social enclaves? They just transition into modern corporate monopolies. The historical advantage is literally cashed in for high-paying modern roles.
But what happens if the game becomes fair? Well, the elites just stop playing and invent an entirely new game. When older fields, like competitive state bureaucracy or medicine, become democratized through politics or affirmative action policies, elites just withdraw. They evade unwinnable political conflicts by shifting their focus over to unregulated global frontiers, like the international tech sector. By doing this, they're constantly staying one step ahead, perpetually securing new monopolies.
Okay, Section 4. The casteless merit myth. This tackles the most powerful illusion in this entire process, and it's how this whole calcification thing is justified to the rest of the world.
Sociologist Satish Deshpande outlines a really profound asymmetry here. He says, upper caste identity is such that it can be completely overwritten by modern professional identities of choice, whereas lower caste identity is so indelibly engraved that it overwrites all other identities.
This creates an incredibly effective illusion. The elite get to exist in the general category. They claim anonymous, pure merit, while completely hiding their inherited privilege. They get to be casteless professionals. Meanwhile, lower-tier or subaltern groups are hyper-visible. They are permanently marked by their origins, and paradoxically, they're the ones blamed for being the caste problem just because they're forced to politically mobilize via their identity to claim basic resources.
By framing their dominance as casteless merit, elites build this impenetrable fortress, all while hiding the hereditary networks that allowed them entry in the very first place. They successfully transform their structurally inherited privilege, all that converted capital we were just talking about, into seemingly objective, standardized test scores and intellectual property. It is a brilliant, if entirely sobering, PR spin.
Which leads us right to Section 5, asymmetric stratification. Let's look at the ultimate consequence of this entire dynamic. This is the jarring reality we end up with. The elite get to live in a secure fortress, safely insulated from economic risk, acting essentially as a closed caste. Meanwhile, everybody else is left treading water in the ruthless chaos and crashing waves of a traditional, highly unstable class system.
And if we look back, history shows us this is a deeply entrenched playbook. Historian Rupa Viswanath notes, rights over land and rights over hereditarily unfree laborers were one and the same. In her research on colonial-era labor, she found that elites deliberately labeled caste as a religious custom purely to bypass legal abolition and maintain a tight grip on cheap hereditary labor. They literally used the language of tradition and custom to protect a highly lucrative economic monopoly.
This builds directly into broader economic frameworks. Just like Cedric Robinson's theories of racial capitalism show, capital actually depends on both free and unfree labor. Institutions routinely co-opt social divisions, like race and caste, to reduce transaction costs. It's simply much cheaper for a system to tie credit and labor directly to a hereditary category than it is to negotiate individual contracts. The result? Subaltern groups remain trapped in targeted extraction, while elites enjoy locked-in monopolies. Tying labor to inherited social categories isn't some bug or failure of capitalism. Historically, it has been its single most efficient tool for wealth accumulation.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. If modern merit is often just inherited privilege in disguise, how fluid is our class system really? It really makes you question the hidden structures governing our own society and the invisible walls turning classes into castes. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the structures around you.